Welcome to Witch Talks, the series for spiritual seekers, witches, and enlightened souls. I'm Hannah the Suburban Witch, professional tarot reader, astrologer, and witch, and I hope you're ready to get up close and personal with your favourite witches. Hello, my dear. I hope you are having a wonderful day, wherever you are today, whilst you're listening to me, and whenever you are listening to me, it's the right time for you. That's what I 100% believe. Now, for me today, I'm going to give you some information that you totally don't need. It's a bit of an overshare, but I am recording this in my underwear. Absolutely, yes, I am. It is 40 degrees here, Celsius, which for those in the US is about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, I looked that up beforehand because I knew you guys would be like, 40 degrees isn't hot. It is very hot. 40 degrees Celsius is very hot. And it's about 100% humidity. So my hair is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the day goes on. And I work at home. I work at home, so I can sit here in my underwear and talk to you guys, and it's fine. I'm my own boss and there's no one else here. So today is a more casual episode. This is going to be one of our Hana Help Me episodes where I answer your questions. If you have a question for me, please send it through to suburbanwitchery@gmail.com because there's going to be more of these episodes coming out. I will basically be doing weekly episodes now. Yes, weekly episodes. Alternating between a more casual episode like this and a more formal episode like a interview with a guest or on a really dense topic. So, yay. Now today's question comes in from Zane. And Zane says, Hannah, help me. I get this fear with Stalker cards and it turns into paranoia and fear of tarot in general. How can I stop or decrease fear and anxiety with the tarot? Now, firstly, I'm going to just let you know, Zane, that you are not alone in this. I've had so many people ask this question over the years. It's a really common theme. So you're not silly for feeling this way whatsoever. But we also want to help you get to a place where you don't feel this way. So I'm going to first define for anyone who doesn't know what a stalker card is, what my definition of a stalker card is. So when we are reading with cards, this can be oracle or tarot, sometimes we might get a card that shows up time and time and time again. This might be, it shows up every single day in your daily draw for a week and you're like, what is happening? I am shuffling, I am selecting at random. What are the chances? And it can get a bit spooky, a little bit eerie when you're like, what is going on? Other times you might be going to see a reader, so a separate reader, and they're pulling the same card that you've been pulling at home. Or you log on to TikTok and you swipe and there's someone there holding up that card. It's like it's there at every turn. Now, the first thing to understand with a stalker card like this is what it's doing, what's its purpose. And the way I see it is a stalker card is a message. Let me also preface that by stalker, I do not mean there is a person stalking anyone whatsoever. That was a big miscommunication that happened on one of my TikTok videos, and lots of people got very worried that a stalker card was a card that showed a stalker. And I was like, no, not what we're talking about. This is a card that just pops up frequently, okay? A repeating card. The repeating card is often a message that we haven't yet understood, okay? It keeps coming up until we understand the message. And once that message clicks, once you understand it, it often just disappears. So let's start by addressing how we figure out what the message is. Now, Zane, I don't know what card it was that was frequently popping up for you, but I'm just going to give you a general how-to so you can use this on any card that comes up a lot. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to grab your tarot journal or a spiral notebook or a piece of paper or whatever you have on hand. And you're going to write down the card that keeps coming up. You can write down how many days it's come up, what questions it's come up under, any other information you think is useful. And then I want you to sit with the card and look at it, really look at it. I want you to tune into this card. This is the artwork, the vibes, the feelings, any words that come to you, any memories, any thoughts, any sensations in your body. You're using all of your psychic senses to pick up on the essence of the card, essentially, and write it all down. Write it all down. Just stream of consciousness. Don't edit yourself. Just put everything down. Keywords, colors, vibes, feelings, everything. Now, once you have done that, I want you to go and get a copy of 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack, or you can Google the Biddy Tarot meanings for the cards or find another resource online or a book that you like for tarot meanings, and I want you to read what other people have interpreted this card as. I want you to read it for both the upright and the reversed meanings as well. Write down any of the key things that pop up or anything that feels really resonant for you. Now go back over everything you've written and either highlight, circle, underline the key ones that feel like they're stronger somehow or they're really jumping out for you. This is likely what your message is and what you need to take away. You can acknowledge this audibly, so literally out loud say, oh, I understand now that I need to rest more. That's why the Four of Swords kept coming up. How did I not see it before? And then, this is the key thing, the way you know if it works, if you've got the right message, is if it keeps popping up or not. So you just got to keep trying. Another thing you can do is if you use any other forms of divination, such as a pendulum, for example, you could ask, is this the correct message that I need more rest? And it will give you a yes or a no response. Now, if you're really not sure in terms of divination, some of you may know I do have a psychic divination course that I put out, and I will be opening enrollment for that in March of 2024. I open enrollment 2 times a year, so keep your eyes out. There is a wait list, and I will link it below in this description for this episode. Okay, so you have done some divination around it, you have journaled about it, you think you've got your message. This doesn't really address the fact that you're feeling fear, paranoia, and anxiety around the tarot, which is a deeper issue, okay? It is more than that. So firstly, we need to figure out your why. Why are you feeling this way? Again, journaling and shadow work can be really helpful for this, as can other forms of divination. So what is underlying this fear? When you see this repetitive card, what are you worried is going to happen? You've mentioned anxiety. Now, anxiety is very future-based. So are you seeing this card that's coming out repetitively as a prediction of something coming in the future? So maybe you're seeing, for example, the death card and you're like, oh my gosh, the death card keeps coming up. Obviously someone's going to die. And then you get in your head about it and get worried and scared. Oh my gosh, the tarot is this powerful thing and oh my goodness. And then you basically spiral and throw your tarot deck across the room, presumably. Now, firstly, that's usually, as I've said, not how Stalker cards work. They're usually just talking about a message rather than a prediction in that regard. And honestly, whenever I've had predictions that legitimately predicted someone dying, it wasn't through the cards. It was through a dream or a vision or a feeling. Those sorts of things are more frequently that aspect, just to ease any of those fears. Now, whilst I don't know specifically why you were feeling the worry about this, and I think that's something shadow work's going to really help you with, there are some other tips I can give for anyone feeling scared around the tarot. Firstly, you can stop tarot at any time. No one's ever forcing you. You can always take a break. That's totally fine. Secondly, you can try a different deck. Sometimes the softer decks, the cutesy decks, the fun decks, they are a little bit less scary to work with, especially if there's any unresolved fear or trauma, especially religious, around the tarot. Next, you can utilize herbs. So have a cup of chamomile tea whilst you pull out your cards and start reading with them. Create a little soft, gentle ritual around when you're reading your cards. Make sure you're not reading them when you're hyped up. Make sure you're not reading them when you're already in a state of feeling out of sorts. And the other thing I need to ask, are you grounding before you're reading your tarot cards? Grounding is an absolutely crucial part of it. If you've ever read for multiple people at a time or in a day, you will know that if you are not grounded, you're going to exhaust yourself very, very quickly. Grounding is a way of connecting yourself and your energy to the earth's energy. And what this means is you're then pulling from the earth rather than pulling from yourself and depleting yourself. Staying grounded when you are reading the tarot is a really, really great way to not get into those fear-based head spirals. So make sure you're grounded. Cleanse yourself, cleanse your room, cleanse your deck. Do that frequently. That's not going to hurt anything. It's always a good habit to keep up, making sure you're cleansed, you're grounded, and using some form of protection. So whether this is you've protected your space with some wards, perhaps wearing some protective crystals. Also, actually a really great crystal for when you're feeling nervous around this sort of stuff is yellow jade. I think yellow jade is a highly underappreciated crystal. I absolutely love it. I think it's wonderful. There are ritual oils you could use. Actually, Amy at what was Wiccan Sage is now Rosethorn Cottage makes, and I'm pretty sure she's still got it out, a wood elf like roll-on essential oil thing, and I find that incredibly grounding. So I think having all of these things in place can help you to reduce the anxiety and the fear and the worry around reading with your cards. But again, I need you to address it for yourself as to the why underneath it to figure out how to fix it from there. I hope this helps. All right, so there's our Hana Help Me segment of today's episode. As I've said, we're going to be having weekly episodes now, which is really, really exciting. The way I came to that was I actually won a podcast mentoring session with iHeartRadio. It was a 1-hour podcast mentoring session, and one of their suggestions was to take my general chit-chat and my casual tone from the beginning of each episode and make it into its own episode, and then I get A, weekly episodes, and B, we have the topic for my interview episodes, we just get into it straight away and I don't lose people when they sign up. So that's what I'm trying. I hope you guys like it. I think it's going to work really well. It's surprisingly not any extra work, but I get extra output somehow. So that works well. But I was very, very stoked to win that competition. I didn't expect to, but I did. And she said it was because it felt like my podcast had the most potential, which is such a huge compliment. Now, you might know as well that there is something called the Witchies, which is the Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards, and they happen every year. And I was nominated 4 times this year in 4 different categories, which made me the most nominated witch, and I am ecstatic about that. So the podcast itself was nominated for Outstanding Podcast, and then we also had Outstanding Podcast Episode, which was the one with Matthew Remski, where we talked about New Age to Conspirituality pipeline, New Age to alt-right pipeline, that topic. So I'm presuming, I actually think the awards will be out by the time this episode comes out, but at the time of recording, I don't know if I've won anything or not. So I was nominated last year and I didn't win anything. So fingers crossed for this year that I come home with something, which would be really wonderful. It's a great way to recognize the people in this industry. It is a small industry and there's not a lot out there that does recognize the talents and the people and all of the creative endeavors that everyone's getting in on in the witchcraft and occult space. Keeping you guys up to date with a few other things that I'm working on, which those in the Suburban Witches Society know all about because they get all of the details all of the time on our monthly calls. But I let them know I've got a few things in the works. You may know that I wrote a book last year. I'm currently in the final touches polishing stage before querying that, so that's very, very exciting. I've also got 2 decks, a tarot deck and an oracle deck that I have conceptualized, and I am seeking illustrators. I haven't found anyone that fits what I'm looking for yet, and they're both totally different vibes. If you are an illustrator or if you know an illustrator, feel free to send me links. I'm happy to check it out. I have a big folder on my Instagram of people that I like looking at their illustrations to reach out potentially. Still haven't figured out if I'm going to do a Kickstarter and try and self-publish or if I go through traditional publishing. It's one of those big things that I'm going to think about later. So they're in the works. I've also got a series of classes that I'm working on that are going to help people with deconstructing from the fear around Christianity, specifically evangelical Pentecostal Christianity. The first one looks to be on deconstructing from the rapture doctrine, which is going to, instead of being a live class, I think that's actually going to be too long or too intense and too heavy for a live class. So I'm going to do this as multiple smaller little lessons that get sent to your inbox over a couple of days. So that's coming out soon. There is a waitlist for that content, which I'll link in the description box for this episode as well. So if you're on that deconstruction pathway, this might be the content for you. And the next class after that, I think, is going to be on deconstructing from the hell doctrine. So the 2 big fear aspects, right? And we were talking a lot about fear today with the tarot, and a lot of those fears can sometimes come from the church. So I'm tackling those head on because I think it's really important. Now, if you are listening when this episode comes out or close to, which is I think on the 7th of February, we have a new moon in Aquarius coming up this week on the 10th of February. It'll be at 8:59 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And that actually heralds in the Chinese New Year, which is really cool. They work on a lunar calendar. So the new moon in Aquarius starts the Chinese Lunar New Year. And this year, it's going to be the Year of the Dragon, which is a particularly strong and prosperous year. Now, if you do want to start working with the new moons and the full moons, I do have some ritual worksheets up on my website, which you can access. So there's a new moon worksheet and a full moon one, depending on what you want, or you can get both. It's up to you. But it guides you through a little new moon ritual and how to manifest the life that you want alongside the moon. Something I've been using for like 5 years now, I think, 4.5, 5 years. And I absolutely love it. And when I skip a month, I feel it and I notice it. It's just a way to really connect me in with the cycles. And every single one has a little tarot reading spread at the end that aligns with the energy of that moon. I find that so helpful as well. So that brings us to the end of this episode. It's a nice quick one. It's like a real mini-sode. As I said, if you have a question for me, please send it to suburbanwitchery@gmail.com. Stay cool if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, stay warm if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.